is now countries, though they want to break them up into regions. They want a world army to impose the will of the world government on anyone that doesn't want to accept it. That's what NATO is now. You know, when they're justifying bombing whole cities of civilians on the pretext of protecting civilians, and they say the world community has decided, and we have GH, and the international, that's code for world government. And when they then say, we're going to bring NATO in because the world community has decided, no, actually, America, Britain, France, and one or two others have bloody decided, and Israel. They are talking about NATO as a world army. The idea of this structure, where they want to take us, is to have a world government that says, these people, or this group, this, what is now a country, is not accepting our diktats, send the boys in. And that's what we've seen in Libya. That's what they're trying to bring in Syria. That's what we're seeing increasingly around the world. The international community has decided, send the boys in. NATO, de facto world army. International community, G8, de facto world government. We're seeing it being moved into place. They want a world single electronic currency that would replace all other currencies. No more cash. So now you go into a shop or something, you hand over electronic money, a credit card. The computer says, no, won't accept your card. You least now, still, although it's going out of circulation at an extraordinary rate, you can still say, okay, I'll pay cash. What about when there's no cash and that computer says no to your credit card or your microchip as it's designed to be eventually? That's deciding if you purchase or not. It's all about control. And so they want this world currency, and that's what we're seeing in Europe now. People say, oh, the euro's not working. Look. No, it's not. And you know why? Because it's not supposed to work. It's just a stepping stone. You had all those currencies in Europe, in Italy, in France, all these different currencies. They wanted on the process of getting to this world currency to get rid of them. So they replaced them all, nearly all of them anyway, with the euro. Now all those currencies in one fell swoop gone. Now we're down to one in Europe, in most countries, the euro. So now what do? They want to make the euro not work as the next stage of getting more and more into this, towards this one world currency. So, another thing to mark the card for anyone involved in these Occupy protests, if any suggestion comes along that we should go to some form of world government, or to, and they're even talking about it now, to a world central bank and all this stuff, no, no, no. Listen, it's centralization of power in this world that has got us into this mess. If you have diversity of decision making, there's so many points of decision making, no cabal at the center can dictate that or manipulate that on anything like the scale that it can when you have centralization of power. So we've got the European Union, we've got which is a fascist dictatorship or communist dictatorship, whichever we want to call it. We've got this single currency and all the rest of it, all this economic disaster in Europe, all manipulated on purpose, as it is in America and elsewhere. And I'm seeing people say, well, the answer to all the problems caused by this constant centralization of power, we need more centralization of power. Let's go to a world level now. And yet, as I've shown in my books for 20 years, this is exactly what the plan has been all along. And if we're not very, very careful, many of the Occupy protesters are going to be manipulated, unless they get streetwise about the game and how it's played. They are going to get manipulated into accepting, even demanding, a solution to a problem that is going to make the problem even worse and the enslavement of humanity even more extreme. When you look at where they want to take us, which is into this centralized global dictatorship, then you look at the main technique that they used to take us there. I gave it a name a long time ago now. Problem, reaction, solution. Dead simple, devastating. At stage one, you create a problem. You blame someone or something else for it to hide the fact that you're really behind it. You then, through an unquestioning and pathetic media, tell the people the version of the problem you want them to believe. What you want at stage two is the reaction to the problem from the people. Fear, outrage, something must be done. It could be a war, it could be a terrorist attack, like the Mossad American intelligence operation known as 9/11. It could be an economic collapse, whatever. Whatever problem you need to be allowed you to go to stage 3 of problem, reaction, solution, which is to offer the solutions to the problems you have covertly created and blame someone or something else for it. And those solutions are constantly advancing your agenda to this centralized global dictatorship that I'm talking about. So when you crash the global economy, and when you're moving trillions and trillions of dollars around the world economy every day, that's this network is, you decide if it goes up or down. Nobody else does, you do. And therefore, you can create an economic collapse at will. That's what they did in 2008, and they've gone on with it since. And the idea is that problem is then offered a solution. And people like the Rothschild-controlled bagman and billionaire George Soros, one of the major funders, by the way, into existence of MoveOn.org, which is trying to move in, this Democratic Party-owned, cabal-owned operation, moving in on the Wall Street protests and stuff like that. You can then offer the solutions that Soros and others are offering, which are what? To solve this economic global crash, we need a world central bank. Stands back in amazement. I'm shocked. Knock me down with a feather and I shall swoon. It's so blatant, it's so callable, it's an open book once you do the research and you realize where this is going. And so, it's so vital as we've reached this point, this cusp where so many people have gone through or are going through this process now, where they're saying, I'm a slave and I'm not having it. And then they go to the next stage, which is what we're starting to see. It's so important that they don't allow themselves to be pawns, genuine pawns, unknowing pawns, but pawns all the same, in a manipulation that then takes us on to the next stage of an even greater financial and human enslavement than we've had up to this point. Because this is a vital area. It's vital not to get focused and obsessed with corporations and banks and all that stuff. It's about control. It's about human control. And the form it takes doesn't matter to these people. They just want the form that brings most control. Now, in the process of doing this, they've reached a point where the control has been going on through a banking system, private banking system, controlled by these families and their networks, and through corporations controlled by the same families and these networks. I mean, I keep seeing people say, we must have an end to capitalism. We don't have capitalism. We have cartelism. It's like J.D. Rockefeller said, competition is a sin. We have an oil cartel, a pharmaceutical cartel, a biotech cartel, on and on it goes. And these are the cartels of these families. This is how they control and dictate at this point. But they want to go to the ultimate level of human control, where they don't have corporations, so we know them anymore. And so if we can get caught in, yeah, get rid of the corporations, I'm all for that. But the question is, to be replaced by what? And this is the structure they want. They want the world government, the world central bank, the world currency, the world army to implement the will of the world government, and then they want the world government ministries. Read 1984. George Orwell, real name Eric Blair, wasn't coming from his imagination. He had access to the projected agenda through the Fabian Society. Exactly the same Fabian Society that Aldous Huxley was a member of, and thus had the inside knowledge to write a prophetic novel called Brave New World. They were coming from knowledge of what the projection was. Huxley, it seems, supporting it, and Orwell not supporting it, trying to expose it. But it's still the same source of where it came from. This has been going on for so long. What they want is the world government and then the World Ministry of Oil, which would take over all the oil corporations, all the oil infrastructure, all the oil finance, everything. They want a world ministry of health that would take over all the pharmaceuticals and encompass what is now the World Health Organization, a Rockefeller Rothschild creation, by the way. They want a world ministry of trade that would encompass the World Trade Organization and dictate global trade from a central point. A world ministry of this, a world ministry of biotech, and all the rest of it. And so they want to absorb the corporations as they are now into these ministries for the ultimate global dictatorship. And the same people behind the banking system now and the corporations now will be controlling the world government and the ministries. But the same thing, but it will go on to a much higher level and a much more coordinated level of human control. So, they will want people, protesters against the outrageous injustices and grotesque actions and behavior of the corporations, to call for the end of the corporations, call for the end of the banks. Yes, fine. But we have to dictate what replaces them. Diversity from the center. Control that people have of their own lives in their own communities, not what they want. And what I have to say, speaking now, I'm seeing happening around the world in these protests, having the cabal you were protesting against dictating what this stuff is replaced by. If we go there, more and more centralization of power, we'll live in a global fascist state within 10 years. Our children and grandchildren will live a lifetime bloody nightmare. Or we can go this way and saying we want power from the center to people in their communities. So no central cabal can dictate the lives of everyone in a country or a state, never mind everybody on the bloody planet. And one final thing. You know, these organizations that move in, like moveon.org, I mean, I wish the bloody would, sooner the bloody better, that are Soros funded and Democrat Party controlled and all these people. And then I mean, if people, you know, a lot of the people in the protests, if they hear this bit, they'll be going, boo, what are you doing? Because I've seen them do it to people. Global warming caused by humans is a bloody giant hoax. It's been created to justify dramatic changes in society and control in society to advance this very agenda I'm talking about. Because if you're playing problem, reaction, solution, and you want, therefore, to present global change, you've got to generate global problems to which you can offer global solutions. Climate change. Everyone's affected. We need global laws. What's international law, by the way? Oh, international law. International law is law that everyone on the planet is supposed to obey. This is the world government international law coming into place. Anyone does a modicum of basic scientific research, they will see that human-caused climate change, notice it's climate change since temperatures started falling. When they go up again in the sun cycle, it will be global warming again. But do a modicum of research and you find that the whole idea was a scam. Anything that Al Gore's involved is a scam by definition. He knows nothing else. And yet, we're having these organizations like, was it 350.org, and these others, oh yes, we must have climate change legislation. Yes, come on, build me prison a bit more. Give me some carbon.